invasion of Ethiopia. We've got some really interesting stuff here, guys. 1936 is a really important year. Okay. One of the things we got to talk about here is the treaty. Remember the Treaty of Versailles? The $33 billion in war debts that Germany had to pay, war reparations. Remember that? Okay. So they owe $33 billion. They also said to Germany, we're going to take away some of your territory. So they took away some of Germany's, the country, the landmass. They said that Germany could not build an army more than 100,000. They limited the size of the Navy of Germany and told them no air force. They could not build an air force. Okay, so what we see here, guys, is really the French are behind this. The French want to punish Germany so that they do not invade France again. Because, guys, I don't know if you remember hearing of something called the Franco-Prussian War. That happened like in the 1870s. And the Germans invaded France. And then in World War I, the Germans invade France. So at the end of World War I, the French are like, enough. We don't want you to ever rise to power again. You follow me? One of the other things they did, look at this map because this is very important. Here's Germany. Okay, this is Austria down here. Okay. Oh, maps. When are those due? Mm-hmm. Those are due tomorrow. You need to label states and capitals, countries and capitals, and bodies of water on the Europe side. Okay? Get it right, because every one you mislabel or fail to label is -1. You fill this out correctly, it's 25 points. Here's 25 points. You follow me? Don't be that person that gets freaking 16 out of 25 because you were lazy. I'm looking at everybody. You understand, people? Turn that in class tomorrow. Hard copy. Okay? Does anybody need one? They lose it? It's okay. It happens. Anybody else? Cooper, you got a haircut. Yeah. Looks good, man. Yeah. Looks sharp. Okay. Check this out. I don't know if you've ever heard of the Rhine River, but the Rhine River is the largest river in Central Europe. And it runs right along here. So what the French said under the Treaty of Versailles is that the Germans could not put any troops in here along its border with France or Belgium. So this is what's called a demilitarized zone, a DMZ. Okay, you with me? So Hitler's not allowed to put any troops in there. All right? This area here is called the Sudetenland. We will be talking about this in the coming days. Okay, because Hitler wants it back. This is the territory that they took away from Hitler, or from Germany. Because there are 3 million people of German ancestry living in that region of Czechoslovakia. The reason why they put that there, why they took this territory away from Germany, because there's a mountain range that runs through here. Anybody know what mountain range that is? It's the Alps. Okay? If you put a mountain range between Czechoslovakia and Germany, it makes it difficult for Germany to invade Czechoslovakia, their neighbor. Because the French are tired of the Germans coming in. You understand? So they said, we're going to take this away, give this to Czechoslovakia, and they won't be able to invade. With me? Hitler's going to be coming for that. Okay? And where was Hitler born? He's going to be coming for that. Okay? Wherever there are German people, he wants to bring them into the fatherland. Okay? He uses that as justification or as an excuse to take these other countries. We're not quite there yet. Okay? So we're in 1936, and I know you guys have been wondering yourself, you know, while we've been talking about Germany so much, you know, what's going on in Spain right now? Right? Guys, there is a bloody civil war going on in Spain, okay, between the fascists and the Republican government. We have a Republican government in the Republic, okay? The fascists, led by a guy named Franco, is going to try and overthrow the Republican government. So who do you think is going to be helping this fascist Franco? Italy and Germany. You know what they're going to be giving Franco? Weapons. Okay, now these are new weapons. These are World War II era weapons, not World War I. It's been almost 20 years. So better machine guns, better artillery, howitzers, and airplanes. Now what you're going to see in the Spanish Civil War, guys, is German pilots flying German planes that they're not even supposed to have. Okay? And the fascists are going to have these weapons, trying them out. So the Germans get to see how good these weapons work in Spain. And who's the guinea pig? Yeah, the people of Spain are the guinea pigs. Okay? Now, who's going to go help Spain? Who's going to help Spain against the fascists? Is the United States going to send help? No. We don't want war, right? What are we? Isolationists. Okay, we don't want to get involved. You understand? What about the British? They going to help? Do they want a war? Do the French want a war? No. So nobody's going to come to the aid of the Spanish Republican government. Now, guys, there were Americans that wanted to stop the spread of fascism in Europe, that wanted to go over there and fight. We passed laws in this country that made that illegal for U.S. civilians to go over there and fight. But this is what people did. You go to Canada, you get a fake passport that says you're a Canadian citizen, and then you go over and fight. Remember when I talked about ISIS? How, like, civilians from the United States, civilians from Europe went over and fought against ISIS in Iraq and Syria? I talk about that. Like, there was this whole Belgian biker gang that freaking went to Syria to fight against ISIS. These are like people that want to stop the spread of evil. You follow me? And so people did this. In fact, guys, the first American to die in World War II was an American civilian pilot that went to Canada, got fake passport papers, went to Britain, and flew for the Royal Air Force. In the Battle of Britain over the skies of England in 1940, was the first American to die in the war. Okay, a civilian. Okay, he also was an Olympian in the 1932 Olympics. He was a bobsledder, rich guy. Okay, he knew how to fly, and he said, "I'm going over there to fight against the Nazis." Okay, pretty cool stories about that. Okay, so eventually there were enough Americans over there fighting in the Spanish Civil War that they gave them a brigade called the Abraham Lincoln Brigade of Americans fighting over there, Canadian Americans. Okay, so you know who's going to help, which is really weird, is the communists. The Russians are going to help. So you're actually going to see Russian pilots squaring off against German pilots over the skies of Spain in the Spanish Civil War. Now, for the Germans, guys, these pilots are getting really good experience at combat in the air. Experience that American pilots won't have when we get into war, you understand? Okay, so the German pilots are well trained by the time the war really starts because of this, all right? So you could do 2 weeks on the Spanish Civil War. It's very complicated. You got to know the geography of the cities. It's fought in pockets all over Spain, and it's very bloody. Okay. How many people died? I don't know, but hundreds of thousands. Okay, so also in 1936, and some of you guys are aware of this, the Berlin Olympics are held. Any track stars in there? Track star. Right. Michael, you do track? What are you sprinter? Okay. You guys do track? Okay. So who steals the show in the 1936 Olympics? Jesse Owens, right? You heard of this guy, Jesse Owens? Jesse Owens was a son of the sharecroppers in Decatur, Alabama. He's the descendants of American slaves. When he was in middle school, Jesse Owens' family moved to Ohio. Okay, and there was a teacher that coached middle school track. Some of you guys did middle school track, right? Okay, my son did, and I'm grateful that Mr. White asked my son to go out and do track. I'm like, because my son played baseball. He's like, Dad, I'm going to go do track, middle school. I'm like, okay, you'll be in shape. Well, it turned out he was really good at it. He was a triple jumper, okay? And so Jesse Owens was really good at it. So by the time he was a senior in high school, Jesse Owens was breaking Olympic records. The Ohio State University gave him a scholarship to run track at Ohio State. This was his first year at Ohio State. He broke more records and qualified for the Olympics. Okay? Now, Berlin by this time, guys, 1936, there's no homeless on the street. There's no unemployed. They built the Autobahn. You guys know what the Autobahn is? The highway system. You know, we didn't build our highway system until the 1950s, right? You've all heard of Route 66. That's how you got out west, it was a 2-lane road. Okay? We didn't build the highways until Eisenhower in the 50s. Okay? So the Germans are like, they built this huge stadium with 100,000 people, the whole, and it's beautiful. The city's modern, and guess what? Germany's out of the Depression by 1936. So he invites the world in to see this. You know what I mean? And people are in awe. I know you guys probably aren't old enough to remember the Chinese Olympics in 2008. But when they put on the opening ceremonies and all that, I mean, they put on a freaking show, man. It was impressive, okay? That's what Germany did. Okay, so people were like, man, this freaking Hitler guy's got his act together. I mean, Germany's doing great, right? Yeah, I know they don't like Jews, but I don't even know any Jews. Who cares? Right? That's how a lot of people felt. Okay? Now, Jesse Owens is a black man. And he's going over there in Berlin where Hitler's been espousing all this Aryan supremacy, right? And he's going to steal the show. He's not going to win 1, 2, 3. He's going to win 4 Olympic golds in track and field. He's going to be competing against the best German athletes. And the best German athlete was Lutz Long, okay, who was a phenomenal athlete. But Owens beat him, especially in those jumps. Did a long jump? Yeah. I didn't have the triple jump back then in the Olympics, but did you try that one? Jack went 44.4. My son took second in 5A in his junior year. It was pretty awesome. He was jumping 37 feet in the 8th grade. Coach Sword said, yeah, that might get him on varsity. So, okay, we'll figure out a way Jack can play baseball and track. Okay. But anyhow, yeah, so I'm going to show you a video on that in a little bit, okay? But Hitler was pissed that, you know, Jesse Owens beat him. And Hitler would shake the hand of every gold medal winner in the Olympics, except for Jesse Owens and the other black athletes from the United States that won gold. Okay. Jesse Owens was a hero in Germany. When he walked into the stadium, the German fans went nuts. He's the fastest man in the world. It didn't matter what color he was. The German fans loved him. And so did the German athletes. It's guys, when somebody, whatever, like your field, something you're passionate about, when somebody like that walks in a room, like if you're like really into science and Albert Einstein walks into the room, dude, it's Albert Einstein. Can I have your autograph? Okay. Or if, you know, it's, you're into computers and stuff like that. It's Bill Gates walks in, right? Or the best boxers in the world. You know what I mean? The best baseball players. People are in awe of Jesse Owens. Okay? Everybody is. And so this really pisses Hitler off. And it shoves it in his face, all this white supremacy crap or Aryan supremacy crap. It shoves it in his face. Okay? And Americans, black, white, Hispanic, it didn't matter, guys. People love Jesse Owens. Okay? And it's a great story. And I want to show you a video. What?
It is not only a tally of medals which turns a champion into a hero. If there's one man who will exemplify the ultimate Olympic hero, it is America's Jesse Owens. His achievements, though equalled since in the record books, are as remarkable for the dignity and grace in which they were performed as for the barriers they broke. Archie Williams was Owens' teammate in 1936 and the winner of the 400 meters.
I guess I would call him the Superman of the team, and everybody knows that. But I mean, I felt that he was one of the men.
Surrounded by Nazi propaganda and its doctrine of Aryan superiority, Owens became the dominant figure of the 1936 Games in Berlin. He was cheered every time he entered the stadium and treated like a star. He was, after all, the fastest man in the world, black or white. Owens won the 100 meters with relative ease from his teammate Ralph Metcalfe. The 200 meters saw a bigger margin of victory, breaking the Olympic record by almost half a second. He completed the sprint treble by helping the American 4x100 meter relay team to a 12-yard victory with a world record that would stand for 20 years. His fourth gold medal proved to be more of a battle.
He was so good. He never practiced a long time. I don't think he practiced enough, because some of the times he would foul out, or he would always miss qualifying because he didn't have a step down.
Owens almost failed to qualify for the long jump until his main rival, the German Lutz Long, suggested that he move his mark back and make sure of a safe, legal jump. Once in the final, Owens and Long battled it out in front of a strongly partisan crowd. When Long actually equaled Owens' jump, the German crowd erupted in excitement. Owens responded with an even longer leap, then sealed his victory with a new Olympic record with his final jump. In front of Hitler and the 100,000 crowd, Lutz Long was the first person to congratulate Owens, cementing a friendship that was to last until Long was killed at the Battle of San Pietro in 1943. Recalling his feelings at the time, Owens later said, "You can melt down all the medals and cups I have, and they wouldn't be a plating for the 24-carat friendship I felt for Lutz Long at that moment."
It's a pretty cool story. I mean, the bravery of, Long to embrace and congratulate and help Jesse Owens during the long jump events. Actually, it was probably what ended up getting him killed, because Hitler was not happy about it and forced him into the military, where, as you saw, eventually he was killed in the front lines. Okay. Usually, I mean, we've had, like in World War II, guys, we had a lot of like famous athletes, actors, and so forth join the military. Very few of them like fought in combat, you understand. But anyhow, it's a good story, and it's kind of a sad one as well, because You know how a lot of our Olympic athletes, they're amateurs. They're not professionals. They don't get paid. Okay. Except for the NBA, you know, they play in the Olympics and they're, you know, professionals. But most of our athletes, like gymnasts and so forth, are amateurs. But they can receive money from endorsements. So like they put you on the Wheaties box and you make money from that and do television ads and stuff like that. You can make money and profit from your success. Well, Jesse Owens never really profited from his success. Okay. And so he was never, I mean, he never got rich or anything like that. He ended up working kind of like, you know, Boys and Girls Club, you know, in Cleveland, Ohio. At one point, when Jesse was older, see, he didn't make it through Ohio State. He didn't go back. Academically, Jesse Owens wasn't there. Kind of like my dad. My dad made it through 1 year of Ohio State and flunked out. Jesse made it through 1 year of Ohio State and flunked out. College was a lot harder back then than it is today, by the way. So he ends up, you know, not really benefiting from it and, you know, being treated as a second-class citizen in this country that he represented so well. At one point in his later years, Jesse Owens had failed to pay his taxes. Now, it's not like he wasn't paying taxes on millions of dollars. He was fairly poor. And he was put on trial. And the judge, you know, asked him, he said, Jesse, why don't you pay your taxes? He's like, well, I don't know. I didn't know how to fill out the forms. And then Jesse said this. He said, Your Honor, I feel like I've paid my debt to the United States. And the judge agreed and let him off. Okay. It's not like he owed tens of thousands of dollars or anything, but yeah, so it's you know, it's a hero story, but it is also kind of a tragic story at the same time. I put the name Louis Zamborini up there. Any guys know who that is? Okay, did any see the movie Unbroken? Okay, that's Louis Zamborini, and he was in the 36 Olympics as well. He ran the 5,000 meters. Now, he didn't win, but he went into the service when the war started, and great story, Louis Zamborini. That, you know, great book and good movie. Okay. So with that goodwill that Hitler builds up during 1936, having the world come in for the Olympics, he decides he's going to rearm the Rhineland. He's going to send troops in. Now, he builds an army of 100,000. What he does is he trains most of them as officers. So when he wants to build an army of hundreds of thousands or millions, he's got tens of thousands of officers to train them. Okay? So he's violating all of these treaties, all of these provisions in the treaty, and then he goes into the Rhineland. Okay. Now, what we find out later is that when he does this, I guess I don't have it in the notes, but when he does rearm the Rhineland, he told his generals, if the French show up to stop you, retreat. Do not engage the French. Do not fight. Did the French show up? Did the British show up? Okay, so Hitler's testing the waters to see what he can get away with. Okay, and he sees what happened with Japan when Japan attacked China and the rest of the world did nothing. So he's kind of testing, see how people are going to react. And the reaction is crickets. Nothing. I mean, they'll criticize it for doing it, but they're not going to go to war. Okay? All right. So, back across the pond here in the U.S. I don't know if you guys remember something called the Stimson Doctrine, but under Hoover, the Secretary of State Hoover, Secretary of State is Stimson. He wants to improve relations with Latin America, okay? And so I mentioned the good neighbor policy. This is where Roosevelt, double down on this. So remember, guys, we have a two-ocean nation. And so what we want to do is make sure that everybody in our hemisphere is our friend. That way we don't have to worry about invasion from within our hemisphere. An invasion would have to come across an ocean. So Roosevelt works to build better relations with Latin America. He's the first president of the United States that will get on an airplane and fly to another country and meet with another head of state, and that will be Mexico. Okay? So he travels down there, meets with the Mexican president, improves relations with Latin America. We're going to be a good neighbor. Okay? That's basically the policy. Okay? And it works. It's good. From time to time, guys, you know what's going to happen on December 7, 1941. Pearl Harbor, okay? Check in on Japanese-American relations, okay? We condemned Japan for attacking China, Manchuria, we know about that. By 1937, they go further and further into China. And in 1937, guys, there's going to be an incident where the Japanese are going to attack an American naval vessel in China. Okay, and you're asking yourself, why does the U.S. Navy have a ship in China? Because just like in Latin America, American businesses had gone to China and done business there, like we do today. Okay, and so this boat was patrolling the Yangtze River to protect American ships going up and down the river. Okay, and it was attacked on December 12, 1937, by the Japanese. This is a picture of the USS Panay, called the Panay Incident. Okay? This gunboat will sink. It will be attacked from the shoreline and from the air by the Japanese. Now, clearly, it's flying an American flag. See the gun on the front. Okay? 2 American sailors will be killed, and 46 will be wounded. Now, if Iran attacked a U.S. Navy vessel in the Persian Gulf today, what do you think our response would be? We'd hit them back, most likely. It kind of depends on who the president is. Most likely, we'd hit them back. But in this case, the Japanese claim, oh, we're sorry, it was a mistake. They offered $2 million for the families of the deceased. But the reaction from the United States was this: why are we in China? We need to get the hell out of there. You're going to get us drawn into a war by being attacked by the Japanese. Not, the response was, hey, what the heck are the Japanese doing messing with us like that? You know what I mean? So the response by the United States is seen as weak. Okay? And by caving and accepting this apology and taking the money and just, it could be seen as a form of appeasement. We talked about appeasement the other day. Yes? Did we not? Yes? No? Okay. Why didn't I talk about appeasement the other day? Okay. So when he rearms the Rhineland, and Britain and France do not enforce the Treaty of Versailles, it's appeasement. Okay? What appeasement means is giving up your principles in order to avoid conflict. Let me repeat that. Appeasement is giving up your principles in order to avoid conflict. Let me give you a kind of a simple example of this. I've been married for 24 years. Okay? Occasionally, my wife and I will have a disagreement. Now, I know I'm right. But if I persist in explaining to her why I'm right, we're going to get in a conflict. There's going to be an argument, right? And she's going to be mad, whether I'm right or wrong. She's going to be mad for the next couple of hours or days. So I think to myself, do I really want to have this argument? Or should I just let her win? And then I don't have, she's not going to be pissed at me for 2 days. Yeah, sometimes I will appease my wife. Gentlemen, those of you that have girlfriends, you know what I'm talking about. Now, is this healthy for a relationship? Communication is important, right? Gentlemen, stand up for yourselves. I'm being a hypocrite here. Yes. Okay. But yeah, appeasement, guys, is giving up your principles. It's like the bully. You know what I mean? When you don't stand up to the bully, it's just going to get worse. You understand? And what we're going to see time and time again leading up to World War II is appeasement. Trying to make Hitler happy. Trying to make Hitler go away. Trying to appease him. And it only makes him stronger. You understand? So when we do this with the Japanese, they're like, you just blew up an American ship, killed 2 of their people, and there's no repercussions for it. You with me? Okay. Sorry I didn't cover that the other day. Now, I want to hear kind of a cool thing. Did I mention to you guys that China finished completion of the world's largest dam a few years ago? I mentioned that to you guys here on the Yangtze River. Okay, it's massive. Okay, it's more than a mile wide. This picture doesn't do it justice. It's over 500 feet from here to the bottom of the sea, to the riverbed. Hi. And I tell you, it created a reservoir the size of Indiana. Yeah. And what some scientists say is that by creating a lake that big, it's actually slowed down the rotation of the Earth. But just like tiny milliseconds. Okay. Because it's so heavy, all that water. Okay. And it really changes the ecology for sure. Okay, so when they built this, it was controversial, but it's got 23 turbines in it where the water they can release the water through. 23 turbines for hydroelectric power. Each one of those puts out 700 megawatts of energy, which is about the size of a medium-sized nuclear power plant. Each one of them. So it provides a lot of clean energy for China. China is the worst polluter in the world. So this is good, especially if you're kind of a greenie person, green, environmentalist type person, okay? But on the other side, on the flip side, there's some bad parts to this. Like they had to relocate 1.2 million people. Also, submerged in that new lake, 13 cities. 40 towns and 300 villages submerged. It's like the city of Atlantis. 1,600 factories submerged. As a result, 1.2 million people located. Okay, even greater loss. There are historical sites that are submerged that date back 10,000 BC. They're underwater. Okay. But the Yangtze River, which is the 3rd largest river in the world, as far as length and the amount of water, has killer floods, like the Mississippi. You know what I mean? You can get really bad floods. And so it allows them to control it and also open up bigger ships to go down the river to Chongqing, which opens up markets to about 380 million people. Okay, so that's progress for the Chinese. Now, on the negative side also, in the years leading up to building the dam, this is kind of like the Amazon area. You know what I mean? It's like not highly populated where the lake is, okay? And they had discovered something like 40 new animal species in the years leading up in this Three Gorges area. So they had discovered in the past few years 12 new mammal species, 21 new bird species, 6 reptiles, and 5 amphibians that they didn't even know existed. And now all of that area is underwater. There's also 4 protected species, the golden monkey, the clouded leopard, the spotted leopard, and the golden eagle. That's where their habitat is. It's now all underwater. Okay, so there's some negative sides to this, and then you got the safety of the dam itself. Like, if this thing broke open, it would be a humanitarian disaster. Okay, the amount of water that is being held behind that dam is massive. You can imagine what would happen downstream. Okay, now if we ever get in a war with China, but imagine if there's an earthquake or something, you know what I mean? Like, this could be really bad, okay? But thus far, it's been really good for China, okay? Just providing a lot of electricity that they need, okay? You want to watch a video about it? Yeah. Okay. It's a little cheesy, but it's interesting.
Peace out, leaving home just to change my phone plan. Hello, switching from my sofa.
The Three Gorges Dam is the world's largest hydroelectricity project, the world's largest hydropower station, and a massive water control project that has made a huge difference to navigation in the region.
Where I'm sitting right now is as high as the highest point of the Three Gorges Dam, 185 meters. The water in this basin behind me reaches a height of 175 meters. And even though we can't see a lot of it today, I'll describe to you guys how vast and how wide this dam actually is. From this point to the other point of the upstream is 2,309 meters wide. This water and the water downstream has a difference of 100 meters. Can you imagine the amount of water that high, even as high as the Statue of Liberty in New York, what kind of ability it has to control floodings and generate power? It's no wonder that this enormous construction behind me earns its title of biggest standalone architectural construction in the world.
Like a giant door, the Three Gorges Dam locks the exit of the Three Gorges of the Yangtze River. Rapidly running water is retained in an enormous reservoir, 600 kilometers in length and 175 meters above the river. Tourists from every country of the world come to see the grand Three Gorges Dam.
Is this your first time to visit the Three Gorges? Okay, what are your feelings? What is your sympathy towards this place?
Well, I know where you're going.
No, I'm totally no intention.
No, I think it's a tremendous project, and I think they needed to do it. Because they have you had all the flooding issues, and you have a tremendous need for power in China.
Sections of the Three Gorges Dam are open to tourists, but you need to walk on top of the dam to see how huge it really is.
我现在获得了特批，我一会儿可以去一个普通的游客没法去的地方。那个地方是哪儿呢？是大坝的巴黎。
Speaks Mandarin.
The Three Gorges Dam is obviously not only used to generate electricity, it's also used to control the river and to control it from flooding. Now here are 23 floodgates, which are all massive in size. You must be wondering how big the water basin on the upper end of the dam might be. It houses an amount of 20 million cubic meters, which is obviously an incredible amount. It's hard to imagine.
Okay. I just always thought that was pretty interesting. Thought I'd include it in the notes. Okay. So tomorrow, we will pick up from there. We'll be looking more at appeasement, isolationism, and neutrality as we move towards World War II. We probably won't get to the war, the start of the war tomorrow. We'll get close to it. Okay. And then the war really starts with the invasion of Poland. Okay. In September 1st, 1939. So we got to get through the 30s, and we'll be there. Good? Don't forget your maps.